What's up guys, Eli here, back for another new stuff video. Pretty much all music today. Got some heavy metal, got some progressive rock, and let's get started. Alright, I've got a nice combination of new releases, some old prog rock stuff, a reissued classic, nice mixture of stuff. We'll start off with the new albums from this year. I have not picked up a lot of 2022 releases. Every year I'm just kind of becoming increasingly not super interested in, trying to follow what's coming out. If it's good enough, it'll somehow get on my radar. This is a band that I really love. Everything they've done is spectacular. Their comeback era, last 5 albums now have just been so fucking good. I would say this band is actually the best heavy metal band out there right now, and I will die on that field. We're talking about Satan with Earth Infernal. Metal Blade Records. If you don't know who Satan are, they were one of the many bands from the new wave of British heavy metal movement that was happening in the late 70s and early 80s. They had one classic album, then they kind of had a kind of a lineup shift. They put out another album that was really good, not as good as the debut. Then they went away for 25 years, came back, and they've now put out, 4 or 5 albums, something like that, and they've all been fucking phenomenal. I would even say that I think, and this is another hill I'll die on, I believe that their comeback material has been mostly better than anything they did in the 80s. That's just how I feel. I've only given this one listen so far, but it is just fantastic. If you want to just kind of get a little taster of what this album offers, look up the song 12 Infernal Lords, and it is amazing. The new album I have is the new album from Watain, the Agony and Ecstasy of Watain. I find that to be a very pretentious album title. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. I do like what they're doing with the cover. The artwork and the logo I think look really badass. I've listened to the album one time. It is very good. I will need to give it many more listens because I'm just weird like that. It takes me... I don't focus on things real well, so I have to listen to something at least 2 or 3 times to really have a hold on it. This came out on Nuclear Blast Records. So Watain you probably know, if you like black metal, you're well fucking aware of who Watain are. They're a Swedish black metal band formed in the late 90s. They were kind of like these black metal darlings for a long time. They were kind of a hype band for a good amount of years. I've always liked them. I've always been a fan. It was kind of funny. So they were on a roll. They had 4 or 5 really good albums, and they put out one album that they kind of tried some different things. It didn't really work. It wasn't a great album. And people just stopped talking about them almost overnight. I always thought that was a little weird. Yeah, the album was a bit of a misstep, but a couple of years later they came back with another really strong album, and nobody talked about it. This album is kind of continuing in that same trajectory where they left off with Trident Wolf Eclipse. And yeah, again, like the Satan album, I've only listened to this once, but I think it's really good. It's got a nice booklet. A lot of cool artwork in here. They're still kind of holding on to the the underground black metal aesthetics that they've always been a part of. It's got stuff like that. So they covered a Profanatica song. I don't know if it's on the CD. I'm not sure. Maybe that's on the vinyl release. But yeah, it's a nice digipack. It's got a lot of nice artwork, and it's got the kind of that kind of matte finish. I like that. Alright, now we just have some old stuff, or older. We got 1990 Testament Souls of Black. I used to have this, and I don't know where it went, so I saw this sitting used in a record store, grabbed it because why not? I always liked it. It's been years since I've listened to it. This came out on Megaforce Records, of course, as you probably know. So yeah, 1990, this followed their biggest selling album, at least at the time, and probably ever, which was Practice What You Preach. This came out just a year after that, because back when bands would be pumping out an album every year, Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about this because it's been so long since I've listened to it. It's kind of why I bought it, because I used to have it and I'd love to re-listen. I'm kind of hit and miss with Testament. They've never been one of my favorite bands, but I do enjoy them from time to time. I mean, they are a good band. They're good musicians, good songwriters. Yeah, and I've always been a fan of Bay Area thrash metal. So then we got Angel of Retribution by Judas Priest. This came out in 2005 after 4-year hiatus. Tim Ripper Owens had left the band. They got Rob Halford back. I remember when this album came out. I've always been a Judas Priest fan. I just didn't buy it for some reason. I've listened to this once or twice, maybe over the years, and honestly, I don't even know if I ever had given it a full listen. So I'm really glad to have this in my collection, and I'm really glad to sit down, and I did it today, to sit down and just give it a nice, attentive listen, and I really liked it. My favorite songs probably Judas Rising and Hellrider. Really, those are just really good, kick-ass, speed metal Judas Priest songs. A little bit modern sounding, but heavy. I'm a big fan of Painkiller and Jugulator, so I just really like that sound from Judas Priest. I gotta say, I thought the song Loch Ness was kind of cool. Definitely not that bad. Definitely not as bad as people make it sound. I think I'm actually going to be doing a video because I made a post on Instagram earlier today about the last four, kind of comeback era Judas Priest albums, and I think I might make a video where I kind of sit down and just talk about those four albums and compare them to each other, and because there's a lot of stuff that I'd actually like to address. But overall, I think they're all good albums. I don't really agree with people's take on all of them, but hey, we're allowed to have our opinions, and I'm not gonna shit on anyone directly for having one. Also, do you remember these dual discs? They didn't make these for very long, but this is one of those dual discs where they have the CD on one side, and on the other side they have I can't remember. There's a DVD. Oh, it looks like it's got a documentary. Probably worth watching then. That's pretty cool. But yeah, they didn't make these dual discs for very long. I don't know. I'm not sure why. Then I have this Kansas King Biscuit Flower Hour Presents from 1989, or at least that's when this was recorded. I don't know if it came out in 89, but looks like this CD came out in 98. But yeah, it was recorded in 1989. I've always heard of the King Biscuit Flower Hour, never really knew what it was, to be honest. And I just didn't grow up. I didn't grow up in the 70s and even the early 80s, but so it was basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you're an older music fan, you probably know way fucking more about it than I do, but from what I know, it was a radio show where they would have bands come on and play live, usually bigger bands, not like underground bands or anything, but big bands like Kansas and Styx and shit like that, and they would play live on the radio for an hour or whatever. So back in 1989, Kansas were still fairly active. Most people wouldn't really consider that prime Kansas by any means, but this was the very end of their being active. They were still putting out an album every couple of years. 88, they put out the In the Spirit of Things album, so then they did this in 89, and then they wouldn't have another album until 94, and basically after 88 they would start to be, the problems they were having as a band would, the cracks in the foundation were getting worse. But I'm happy to say that Kansas are still a band to this day, and they are now stronger than they have been in a long, long time. I decided to give a listen to this. This still has Steve Walsh on vocals, and this is from the era when they had Steve Morse on guitar, who now is in Deep Purple. Then I got this 1980 album, John and Vangelis, Short Stories. So, this is the mighty Vangelis, the Greek composer, with John Anderson of Yes. Those guys would become friends in the mid-70s. John Anderson and Vangelis would meet, and they would collaborate on a soundtrack. It was essentially a Vangelis soundtrack called Heaven and Hell, for a movie, and John Anderson joined to do some vocals. They hit it off so well that John actually wanted Vangelis to join Yes. He wanted him to join Yes really bad, And I don't know, I'm sure Vangelis considered it, but he ultimately declined the offer. He wanted to, he wanted to continue doing his own work, and he knew that if he joined Yes, that would take up a lot of his time. That would have been really cool to hear, Vangelis and Yes. It never happened, and I've always wanted to check out some of these albums from these two guys. This is the first album they did together, not including the Heaven and Hell soundtrack. From what I've read, this is the weakest of the few, but I picked it up cheap, and I'm a fan of both of these guys. So this is not like prog or ambient music or anything. I guess it's synth pop. Not a synth pop guy, but I like the two guys involved. So if I even remotely like what I hear on this album, I'll probably get more of their stuff. So I know I got a couple prog fans on here. What do you guys think about the John and Vangelis albums? Worth getting? You like them? You hate them? Let me know. Then I got this thing here. I absolutely did not need to buy this, but it was actually very cheap. It was used. I already have the album, but I don't have this cool version. So now I have 2 copies of Iron Maiden Senjutsu. This is the, I don't know what you call this, the book version. I just have the digipack. When I bought it, that was the only one that was left. Everything was sold out. So yeah, glad to have this. I really didn't need it, but I like this version. It's really nice. Similar to what they did with Book of Souls. Book of Souls, I think, has a better book. If I remember correctly, the Book of Souls has a removable, or just a separate book. This one is built into the set, but it's cool. It's nice. I got it for $10, so I'm just thinking about what I need to do with my other copy. Maybe I'll sell it, or maybe I'll just keep it. It's always cool to have multiple versions of shit, right? I was glad to pick this up, as unnecessary as it was, and I'll say it again because I've talked about this album a little bit. I like this album. I know people were so goddamn divided on it, and when there's a huge dichotomy with, let's say, an album, it's funny, people like to either almost unnecessarily jump to one end or the other just to have an extreme opinion. So people either loved this album or they fucking hated it. There was not a lot of middle ground. I was more in the middle, as I always am, but I was a little bit more towards the loving it section. But I would not say I loved this album, but I do like it. Yes, it's bloated. I don't need to. What am I doing? We don't need to talk about that. Then I got some vinyl. I know I usually show the vinyl first, but tricked you guys. So this one right here, I'm not sure how rare this was. All I know is I had never seen this out in the wild, and I guess for some stupid reason I never had sought out a copy. I always really, really liked it, or at least as long as I've known about it. We're talking about the 1991 Voivod album, Angel Rat. This was a record store day release. Record store day, I usually will pick like one thing and buy it. I don't have my sights set on anything. I just kind of let it unfold, and I was really, really happy to find this because I do really love this album, and I never owned a copy. So it comes on a pretty nice splatter vinyl. Beautiful. I know a lot of people on YouTube have been showing this, so I'm just one of the many. You've already probably seen people show it, or you own it. I was stoked to find that. And the rest of this is a order I made on Discogs, just a handful of 7-inch singles that I wanted. And I'm going to bitch again. I'm going to bitch yet again about Discogs. Discogs has really been pissing me off lately. I am so tired of sellers selling things and not giving the right info about what you're getting. When I order something from you on Discogs, I want to get what the fuck I ordered. I don't want, oh, I get it in the mail and there's no cover or some bullshit. I'm so sick of it, especially with these 7-inch singles. So this guy had all these listed as, and this is a record store. He should fucking know better. He had all of these listed. He had like hundreds of singles on his website or on his Discogs page, and I will say he put some effort into it. Typically, all his singles, if they didn't come with a cover, they would be listed as, hey, this doesn't come with a cover. But I got 2 of them that didn't come with a cover, and they were supposed to. Again, this is an issue that is just reoccurring, and I'm so sick of it. And I'm really tired of people just using stock images. Quit using stock images for when you're listing Discog stuff. Take your own picture. Don't advertise a picture of someone else's copy. I think that's ridiculous, and a lot of people do that. Just please don't do that. So anyways, I got this Misunderstanding single, Genesis, from the 1980 album Duke, which I really, really like Duke. So yeah, Misunderstanding on one side, and the other side you got Behind the Lines. Yeah, as you know, I'm a huge Genesis fan. I never really had any of the 7-inch singles, so now I'm starting to try and collect those. But I don't like buying incomplete shit. I only want to collect things with covers. I don't. If it doesn't have a cover, I don't want it. I can get it from someone else. I'm sorry, guys. It's been a day. I've been very frustrated with a lot of things today, so I don't mean to be taking that out on you guys. I also have this Abacab single, Abacab on one side and Whodunit on the other side, which is a terrible song. I just bought this for the heck of it. So yeah, obviously this comes from the Abacab album. From when did Abacab come out? 1981, I believe. So those two are supposed to have covers. This one, actually, I will give this guy credit. He listed this one as not with a picture sleeve, and I overlooked that. So this one's my fault. We got the In Too Deep single. I'd Rather Be You on the other side. So yeah, these come from the 1986 Invisible Touch album. You may know, because I've said it before, I'm actually a fan of Invisible Touch. I know it's not without its flaws, but I love it. Then I got the That's All single. It's got side A, That's All, side B, Second Home by the Sea. This came out in 1983, I believe, from the self-titled Genesis album. This is actually pretty cool. This one has some really cool center labels, which you don't get that on a lot of singles back in those days. So that's a nice one. Then I got the Invisible Touch single because, again, I'm a big fan of that album. So big fan of the song too. Invisible Touch and The Last Domino on the other side. Yeah, just regular Atlantic center label. From the same album, I got the Land of Confusion single. This one's really cool looking. It's got Land of Confusion on side A and Feeding the Fire on side 2, which is a really cool song, actually. I think Feeding the Fire would have been a nice addition to the album, but it was not on there. Then I got, you guessed it, from the same album, Throwing It All Away. I like the song. It's very poppy, as a lot of songs on Invisible Touch are. But I will say, side B, you have a song called Do the Neurotic, and it's awesome. It's very, very keyboardy and very proggy, and you probably could have taken Throwing It All Away off the album and replaced it with Do the Neurotic, and I think that would have actually been pretty cool. So yeah, if you're a Genesis fan, you've never heard Do the Neurotic, go give it a listen. You might really dig it. I think it's awesome. And then last but not least, I also want to start collecting the Kansas 7-inch singles, so I picked this one up. Everybody's My Friend. This is from the Drastic Measures album, which is an album most people consider to be not great. I still haven't listened to it. I've only owned it for like a month or two, and yeah, have not listened yet. So the album came out in '83. Period in the band where they had John Elefante on vocals. And here's a funny thing that I'll throw at you guys. I asked recently, I was talking about John Elefante being in the band, and I thought his voice sounded really good on the Kansas material, and I asked you guys, I said, what has John Elefante done? Like, where did he come from? Apparently, he was in the Christian band Petra, which I don't know if I've ever heard a Petra song, but I grew up hearing the name a lot. And I just think that's funny. Petra are like one of the biggest Christian rock bands ever, maybe the biggest, and I just find it hilarious. That's where John came from. I really like his voice. I think he did a fantastic job in Kansas. I am not gonna go listen to any Petra because fuck that. Anyways, guys, that's all I got for now. I have a bunch of movies because I've just been buying movies by the goddamn pound lately. I just decided to, if I have enough stuff, I'll chop it up into 2 videos. So yeah, look forward to a horror movie new stuff video in a couple days, if that's your thing. Other than that, as always, I thank you guys for stopping by. We will talk soon. Cheers. Louis says hello.